I rise to discuss the National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2026. The Armed Services Committee approved this bill in July by a wide bipartisan vote of 26-1. I appreciated the opportunity to work with Senator Wicker and commend him for his leadership in this regard. Also, my colleagues on the committee who worked to produce this bill that we are now considering on the floor. But before I turn to the details of the bill, I must take a moment to address the ongoing deployment of National Guard troops here in the Capitol and across the country. Over the past several months, President Trump has drastically escalated his use of the military for political purposes. First in Los Angeles, in fact, a judge today found that it violated the Posse Comitatus Act, his actions. Now in Washington, and very likely soon in other major cities. The President has abused his power as Commander-in-Chief to order thousands of military service members to conduct law enforcement on American streets. And this is antithetical to the core principles of our country. Our military is there to fight our wars. Police officers under local jurisdiction are there to enforce the laws. And then there are federal laws that can be enforced by federal authorities, not military personnel. Now, I've always been a proponent of strong law enforcement and safety in our communities. It's why I've supported the COPS and the BURN JAG programs, among others. But using military forces to police American citizens blurs the vital line between civilian law enforcement and the armed forces, and it damages public trust. Public trust in the military is hard won and easily lost. And I fear the President is causing severe harm to that relationship. These deployments threaten the very freedoms our service members swear to protect. And I urge my Republican colleagues to join us in calling for them to end immediately this lawless use of military personnel to enforce the civil laws of the United States. To that end, the fiscal year 2026 NDAA establishes important congressional oversight of defense support to civil authorities. The bill reinstates mandatory training for all service members on the rules of engagement, domestic operations, ethics, and the code of conduct to prevent escalation during deployments on American soil, legal deployments, under both Title 10 and Title 32. It requires personnel deployed alongside law enforcement to wear clear service identification on their uniforms and ensures military lawyers remain fully qualified and in good standing. The bill also mandates reviews of military costs incurred supporting the Department of Homeland Security, reporting on the use of military facilities for migrant detention, and transparency when military aircraft and resources are diverted for immigration enforcement. We are accumulating a multi-million-dollar bill in the Department of Defense for functions that are the responsibility of the Department of Homeland Security. That's not smart spending. That's not a wise investment in our military. Together, the provisions I described provide greater assurances that when our troops are deployed domestically and legally, their role is tightly defined, accountable, and consistent with American values. More broadly, is a defense bill that is laser-focused on the threats we face. It addresses a broad range of pressing issues, from strategic competition with China and Russia to countering threats from Iran, North Korea, and violent extremists. The bill authorizes important investments in key technologies like artificial intelligence, unmanned systems, and hypersonics, and makes real progress toward modernizing our ships, aircraft, and combat vehicles. Most importantly, this NDAA delivers key wins for service members and their families. It authorizes a 3.8% pay raise for our troops and provides important new resources such as improved housing in barracks, additional child care assistance benefits, and expanded programs to address traumatic brain injuries. It also strengthens education support for military children and requires more transparency in how pay and housing allowances are calculated. Our greatest asset in this country are the men and women of our armed forces. They deserve and they've earned these benefits. And bringing into the military qualified Americans from all ranks and all sections and all regions of both genders is critical to the success of our military forces. Additionally, this bill reaffirms America's role on the world stage. It extends and expands the Ukraine Security Assistance Initiative and commits the Department of Defense to continue providing military and intelligence support to Ukraine. It also strengthens our alliances in Asia by fully funding the Pacific Deterrence Initiative and providing new authorities for U.S. military cooperation with Taiwan. The bill would help modernize our partnership with Japan and the Philippines and ensure our defense industrial base works hand in hand with other allies to counter shared threats. Importantly, the bill would also prohibit any reckless reductions in our force posture in Europe and the Indo-Pacific. Building upon progress directed by Congress the past several years, this year's bill further improves defense acquisition processes by enabling the department to rapidly invest in and field cutting-edge commercial technologies. By improving defense small business programs and partnerships with high-tech companies, this legislation will help meet the defense, industrial, and civilian needs of the United States. Similarly, to compete successfully abroad, our military services and combatant commanders must have the resources they need. This legislation broadly supports the procurement of naval vessels, combat aircraft, armored vehicles, weapon systems, and munitions requested in the President's defense budget for fiscal year 2026. The bill provides additional funding for the procurement of Virginia and Columbia-class submarines, which are critical to power projection and deterrence around the world. Importantly, this NDAA also provides greater predictability and stability in our naval acquisition programs and improves the United States shipbuilding infrastructure through modernization efforts. And as we navigate the threats of nuclear escalation from Russia and increasing capabilities from China, this defense bill strengthens our deterrence strategy by helping to modernize the U.S. nuclear triad. It makes progress in ensuring the safety, security, and reliability of our nuclear stockpile, our delivery systems, and our infrastructure. Increasing capacity in theater and homeland missile defense, and strengthening non-proliferation programs. There are many more provisions in this bill that will help equip the department and our warfighters with the tools they need to succeed. And I look forward to discussing them throughout this process on the floor. Let me conclude by once again thanking Senator Wicker and my colleagues for working thoughtfully on a bipartisan basis to develop this important piece of legislation. And I look forward to a very thoughtful debate on the issues that face our national defense and our Department of Defense. And with that, Mr. President, I would yield the floor and note the absence of a quorum.